I would now like to share a high-level overview of some of the activities the Secretariat has implemented in 2020 thus far. The activities are organized following the new Secretariat structure as follows: the Executive Division, the Intergovernmental Support and Collective Progress Division, the Communication and Engagement Division. Under the Programs Coordination Department, we have the Adaptation Division, the Mitigation Division, the Transparency Division, and the Means of Implementation Division. Under the Operations Coordination Department, we have the Administrative Services, Human Resources, and Information and Communication Technology Division, the Conference Affairs Division, and the Legal Affairs Division. Starting with the Executive Division, the achievements thus far have included continuing to provide strategic and policy guidance and administrative/operational oversight to the Secretariat through active engagement and participation with UN bond-based agencies. The Executive Office has ensured that appropriate safety and well-being measures were implemented in the interest of UNFCCC staff. The Executive Office undertook regular contact with individual staff and collective communication on the evolution of the impact of the pandemic on the work of the Secretariat and the process. The Executive Secretary continued to engage in high-level political engagements to ensure that the momentum to address all aspects of UNFCCC mandated work remains high on global platforms. Provided guidance on the changes introduced in the working methods of the UNFCCC process to continue making progress under the framework, even as the COVID-19 crisis has continued. The Executive Office kept close contact with presidencies, presiding officers, and party delegations, as well as non-party stakeholders, through various fora during this period of the pandemic. The Executive Office ensured outreach through UNFCCC media channels, as well as those of UN Secretariat and UN organizations, to leverage the importance of implementing the Paris Agreement, as well as the need to place climate change at the center of the recovery efforts. The Executive Office worked closely with the Secretary General, the Deputy Secretary General, and key UN entities such as UNDP, UNEP, WMO, and UNDESA to ensure the alignment of strategic objectives and communication. It also worked with the SG's Climate Action Team to provide expert advice and input for the SG and DSG's climate-related engagement, and continued driving the preparations for COP26. We now move to the Intergovernmental Support and Collective Progress Division. Despite the COVID-19 pandemic, the Intergovernmental Support and Collective Progress Division has facilitated progress in the climate process in 2020 by ensuring the coherence, consistency, and timeliness of the work of the governing and subsidiary bodies, and by supporting overarching processes. The Intergovernmental Support Subdivision has directly supported the intergovernmental process. The work of this subdivision has been at the forefront of the Secretariat's efforts to ensure that the postponement of the 2020 in-person negotiating sessions does not result in a critical delay in the implementation timelines in the process. With regards to the provision of support to the COP25 presidency, the COP26 incoming presidency, and the chairs of the subsidiary bodies, the division ensured continued functioning of the intergovernmental climate change process in the context of the global pandemic, and intensified its coordination and support to the COP25 presidency, the COP26 incoming presidency, and the chairs of the subsidiary bodies with a view to helping them guide the process in a manner that would maximize progress and minimize delay. This included organizing and supporting informal consultations between the presiding officers and parties on the general expectations for COP26 and on specific issues critical to the success of COP26, such as Article 6, transparency, and finance. In an effort to maintain momentum in the process, the chairs of the subsidiary bodies convened the June Momentum for Climate Change, which was a series of mandated events and informal consultations aimed at advancing climate action, even under the unforeseen challenges posed by the global pandemic. Building on that experience, the chairs, in coordination with the presidency, conceptualized the Climate Change Dialogues November-December 2020, of which this briefing is a part. These current dialogues represent the largest UNFCCC virtual conference to date, with over 80 meetings in a 2-week time frame. These virtual sessions served as informal spaces where parties and stakeholders could engage, exchange views, and share information. Regarding the provision of support to the COP25, CMP15, and CMA2 Bureau, in 2020, the subdivision has provided substantive and procedural support to 5 meetings and 1 informal briefing of the Bureau. This support was critical in allowing the Bureau to provide guidance to the process regarding the postponement and rescheduling of the 2020 negotiating sessions and the operationalization of criteria to facilitate maximizing progress and minimizing delay in the process. With regards to building a roadmap towards COP26, in an effort to keep parties and stakeholders focused on the urgency of actions toward COP26, the Secretariat created and launched Climate Hub 360. Climate Hub 360 is a support tool for stakeholders which disseminates information on events and activities planned within the process and by external partners to support parties and stakeholders in further implementing the Paris Agreement in the context of these extraordinary times. The Climate Hub currently includes approximately 500 events and will continually be updated as more information becomes available. In the area of external relations, The Secretariat continued to keep parties and stakeholders informed through several channels, including the issuance of notifications. The External Relations Unit also coordinated over 100 bilateral consultations between the presiding offices and parties and managed protocol-related matters as needed. The Collective Progress Subdivision has facilitated consideration of the second periodic review of the long-term global goal under the Convention and of overall progress towards achieving the goal, and research and systematic observation as well as science. In support of the second periodic review, the subdivision organized virtual consultations by the SB chairs with parties during the June momentum. It provided briefings to the IPCC and constituted bodies on ways they can support and engage during the review. Finally, the subdivision supported the elected co-facilitators of the structured expert dialogue in preparing for the first meeting of the SED as part of the climate dialogues. In the context of research and systematic observation, the subdivision is organizing the 12th Research Dialogue to explore the scientific research and understanding of moving towards net zero global anthropogenic carbon dioxide emissions and building resilience to the unavoidable impacts and risk of climate change in this context. This year's Earth Information Day provides an update on the state of the global climate in 2020 and its observation, and discusses recent advances in Earth observation technology and data processing to support decision-making. To ensure that climate action is based on the best available science, the subdivision supported a number of activities, including the SUBSTA Chair's informal meeting with the scientific community and a meeting of the SUBSTA IPCC Joint Working Group. Finally, responding to mandates received at COP25 in Madrid, the subdivision is convening the dialogue on the relationship between land and climate change adaptation related matters, as well as the ocean and climate change dialogue to consider how to strengthen adaptation and mitigation action. We now move to the Communications and Engagement Division. The Communications and Engagement Division delivers against multiple cross-cutting objectives and communicates authoritative, relevant, and timely information to parties, non-party stakeholders, and the public regarding the UNFCCC process and action on climate change. Some highlights of deliverables in 2020 include the Marrakesh Partnership for Global Climate Actions. Under the leadership of the high-level climate champions, enabling collaboration between governments, cities, regions, businesses, investors, and other non-party stakeholders, facilitating climate action on the ground. The Race to Zero dialogues, organized in concert with the UNFCCC Climate Dialogues, providing a series of over 90 events under 10 thematic areas hosted by global partners across all sectors, identified and highlighted opportunities and recommendations for accelerating and increasing action in mitigation and adaptation in support of parties' effort at international and national levels. The Climate Action Pathways, providing 8 thematic roadmaps, identified critical measures and recommendations that parties may act on to effect rapid decarbonization in different parts of the economy. And the mandated Gender and ACE workshop and events successfully delivered in the virtual environment at global and regional levels, including through remote simultaneous interpretation and live streaming on YouTube, resulting in the registration of over 1,400 participants to the 14 gender events and nearly 800 registered for the 4 regional ACE dialogues. With regards to observer participation, the division facilitated and engaged observers across all events, including the June Momentum, and observer engagement has remained high for participation in the climate dialogues. The division generates public momentum and support for the critical climate action by parties, ensuring that all stakeholders are well informed and can easily access wide-ranging, relevant and timely information through strengthened media engagement, online communication and information, recognition of outstanding initiatives, and partnerships with stakeholders with a large public influence. Key deliverables have included communications and engagement support service to established processes, bodies, and presiding officers in collaboration with other divisions within the Secretariat, nurturing partnerships across sectors, for example, in the fashion and sports sectors, helping to reduce the climate footprint and promoting awareness and support for climate action among their wide public networks. The UN Global Climate Action Awards, recognizing new, innovative, and replicable climate action initiatives, helping parties in the implementation of their NDCs. The UNFCCC website and social media channels, servicing over 3.2 million per year through the website, 10,000 users through the mobile app, and over 2 million social media followers with engaging and authoritative content on climate change and the multilateral process. The Global Climate Action Portal, also known as NAZCA, tracking over 27,000 non-party stakeholder actions by over 18,000 stakeholders around the globe. The Communications and Engagement Division continues to drive the momentum on climate action despite the challenging reality of the global pandemic by strengthening existing channels and identifying new ways to reach audiences beyond the usual. We now turn our attention to the Adaptation Division. Despite the disruptions caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, the Adaptation Division has supported parties in 2020 by facilitating the provision of holistic technical guidance and advice on all aspects of adaptation and resilience. Many outcomes of its work are being showcased during the 2020 climate dialogues. The division supported 3 adaptation processes and work programs by catalyzing knowledge sharing, action, and support. Under the Nairobi Work Program, the UNFCCC's Knowledge to Action Hub on Adaptation, The Secretariat organized 2 virtual expert meetings on oceans and biodiversity, whose conclusions features in a policy brief and inform the upcoming ocean dialogue. Stakeholders were kept abreast of new knowledge and ways to engage through the annual progress report and 3 newsletters. To assist developing countries, in particular LDCs, in formulating their national adaptation plans, the Secretariat organized the technical components of the NAP Expos virtually, including a webinar on harnessing synergies with the COVID-19 recovery, 1 NAP country platform, 2 webinars with the NAP champions sharing best practices, and multiple rounds of NAP county dialogues with 18 LDCs to enable them to submit their NAPs this year. Contrary to many other activities, the year's technical examination process on adaptation, focusing on youth and education, benefited from this year's absence of in-person meetings and embraced a new format of spreading smaller, more targeted activities throughout the second half of the year. Activities included the organization of 6 expert meetings, the preparation of 7 policy briefs by TEP-A partners, and setting up 2 competitions for children and young people to envision a climate resilient future. The division further maintained and enhanced its trusted adaptation information and data portals, including the Adaptation Knowledge Portal, NAP Central, and the Fiji Clearinghouse for Risk Transfer. Work on the web portal for the local communities and Indigenous Peoples platform is also progressing within the planned timeframe, budget, and scope. It is due to be launched in December 2020. The implementation of the web portal is almost complete, with the remaining time scheduled for quality control and deployment. Finally, the division supported 4 constituted bodies in fulfilling their mandates and advancing in their ambitious work plans. The body's virtual meetings and events drew record number of participants and observers around the globe. The Adaptation Committee held 2 regular meetings and 1 stocktake meeting. 2020 saw the launch of the first 2 Adaptation Committee deliverables in support of the Paris Agreement. First, the publication examining how developing countries are addressing climate hazards geared towards recognizing their adaptation efforts. And second, a pilot inventory of methodologies for assessing adaptation needs. The Adaptation Committee also initiated work on the Global Goal on Adaptation and launched a flagship report on adaptation at different spatial and temporal scales. The Least Developed Countries Expert Group also held 2 regular and 1 stocktake meetings. It held multiple rounds of NAP country dialogues to provide support, share good practices, and identify solutions to common bottlenecks developing countries face in the formalization of the national adaptation plans. In addition, the leg worked continuously on compiling remaining gaps and needs and identifying ways and actors that could provide support to overcome them. The Facilitative Working Group held 2 meetings and organized a first training webinar focusing on trust and respect, contours of indigenous knowledge. In addition, the facilitative working group held a stakeholder dialogue during the June Momentum to provide an update to all stakeholders on progress made and to receive stakeholder feedback and suggestions. Finally, the Executive Committee of the Warsaw International Mechanism on Loss and Damage held 2 committee meetings as well as meetings of its task force on displacement and its technical expert group on comprehensive risk management. The EXCOM produced a number of technical papers and a policy brief together with the Technology Executive Committee and advanced on the Santiago network. During the June Momentum, it organized an informational event convened by the chairs of the subsidiary bodies, which provided an overview of how the established arrangements under the Warsaw International Mechanism work together to complement existing efforts to respond to the urgency of enhancing the mobilization of action and support. Now we will take a look at the Mitigation Division. The Mitigation Division supports parties to communicate and cooperate in the implementation of ambitious national action in line with global efforts to limit temperature increase to well below 2 degrees Celsius and pursue efforts to limit this increase to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. In the biennium 2020, the Mitigation Division supported the achievement of 4 objectives. With regards to objectives relating to intergovernmental engagement, the Mitigation Division held 2 informal events to progress on the technical work of the Response Measures Forum. The informal events were held in lieu of the postponed SB sessions, and the division also continued to engage actively on behalf of the Secretariat with both the International Civil Aviation Organization and the International Maritime Organization in the development and implementation of their climate strategies and policies. In relation to its objectives on established processes, the division prepared a compilation and synthesis report on Article 3, Paragraph 14 of the Kyoto Protocol and delivered a 3-day global technical experts meeting. The meeting focused on the built environment, particularly building energy efficiency and circular approaches in building construction. The technical paper and summary for policymakers will be finalized in early 2021. In achieving its objectives related to constituted bodies, the Mitigation Division delivered 1 annual report of the Katowice Committee on the impacts of the implementation of response measures, held 2 virtual meetings of the CDM Executive Board, and 1 meeting of Joint Implementation Supervisory Committee. Both CDM-EB and JISC welcomed the entry into force of the Doha Amendment to the Kyoto Protocol on 31 December 2020. Additionally, the division continued to maintain and keep up to date the data exchange standards and common operational procedures, prepared the annual report of the International Transaction Log Administrator to the CMP, and held the 22nd Registry Systems Administrators Forum. In relation to its objectives on data and information management, the division maintained the data portal for response measures modeling tools and continued its support to the clean development mechanism. Over 5,000 registry transactions were processed. Over 600 queries from external stakeholders were addressed, and databases related to project and program of activities were maintained. In achieving its objectives related to enhanced engagement, the Mitigation Division has continued to leverage the regional collaboration centers to facilitate climate action in response to needs expressed by countries and offers of collaborations from other multilateral organizations. Well over 30 events have been held in 2020. In the context of NDC support, the RCCs, in coordination with other UN agencies, conducted 4 regional surveys to assess NDC-related needs and expected submissions. And the RCCs also launched a virtual platform that provides a calendar of virtual events in each of the 6 regions. Its objective is to be a repository of information generated from the events and to promote collaboration among agencies operating in the region. Since April 2020, 97 events have been hosted in the platform covering several topics of the RCC work plan, such as CDM support, carbon pricing support, NDC development, transparency, and rising climate finance. We will now move over to the Transparency Division. It is important to highlight the overall objectives of the Transparency Division, which are the guiding principles in our work. These include the raising of ambition of climate action, building mutual trust and confidence among parties, and promoting effective implementation of action and support represent the key deliverables that we aim to achieve. In terms of specific deliverables to put in practice the above-mentioned objectives, the Transparency Division focused on continuing to facilitate the intergovernmental engagement on measurement, reporting and verification systems, and on the enhanced transparency framework, facilitating extensively the intergovernmental processes under MRV and ETF as shown in the next slide. The division continued to enable the consultative group of experts to fulfill its mandate in assisting developing countries and implement its work plan. We also maintained the Transparency Data Hub as the authoritative and trusted repository of data and information related to MRV and ETF, and continued to enhance the systems and tools. Moreover, we continued to facilitate involvement and participation on MRV and ETF matters by strengthening collaboration, coordination, and partnerships with other organizations. The last in this list, but probably the most relevant in terms of the future, the Transparency Division initiated the full coordination of the transition of the Secretariat to the implementation of ETF by developing transition plans for review processes, IT tools, training of experts, support for developing countries, and engagement. When looking at the specific outcomes of our work in 2020, the first group of activities refer to reviews and technical analysis processes under the MRV system. As you can see on the slide, we concentrated a great deal of effort in this area and managed to coordinate and facilitate over 90 reviews and technical analysis processes of biennial reports, biennial update reports, GHG inventories and assessments of REDD+ forest reference levels. It is important to mention that more than 300 experts were involved in these processes and 27 parties were subject to multilateral consideration. Moreover, we continued to organize the annual meetings of the lead reviewers for national communications and biennial reports of the lead reviewers for greenhouse gas inventories. These were all successfully held virtually. In terms of support to developing countries, training and events, the division had a year full of activities adapting to the restrictions caused by the pandemic. As you can see on the slide, we managed to organize a wide variety of events, including training on information to facilitate clarity, transparency, and understanding of nationally determined contributions with almost 800 participants in 90 countries. Meetings of the consultative groups of experts and CGE workshops on MRV and ETF. There were also some quality assurance events of national GHG inventory management systems, which were attended by around 200 experts. We continued to certify experts on the use of the 2006 IPCC guidelines. As mentioned before, we focused on the transition to the ETF, organizing more than 25 webinars, town halls, and other events. Lastly, in terms of the intergovernmental process, data, and tools, we continued to support relevant matters under the MRV and ETF discussions during the June Momentum and the November Climate Dialogues, but also followed up with the preparations for COP26. We made sure that all our systems, tools, applications, and portals are maintained operational, providing access to the CRF reporter to several developing countries, and continuing to update the information and add new tools like the online review issues database for GHG inventories. Moreover, we prepared several knowledge products, technical guides, and manuals such as the CGE Handbook on Institutional Arrangements to support MRV and transparency of climate action and support. Moving on to the means of implementation division. As you are aware, activities under the means of implementation division cover technology development and transfer, capacity building, and climate finance. On technology development and transfer, the subdivisions mandated activities to support the intergovernmental work and process include the preparation of the 4th synthesis report of technology needs identified by 53 non-Annex 1 parties, and a paper for aligning the CTCN review with the periodic assessment of the technology mechanism for consideration by SBI 52. Also, the subdivision has supported the work of constituted bodies through 2 virtual meetings of the Technology Executive Committee to advance and accomplish its objectives for 2020. These achievements include 2 policy briefs on technology needs assessment and on technologies for coastal zones, as well as one on innovative approaches on climate technologies. B, the annual report of the TEC for 2020 to be published jointly with the CTCN for COP26 CMA3. And C, 4 regional technical expert meetings and 1 technology event. With regards to communication and outreach activities on technology development and transfer, the subdivision regularly updates the information platform on technology-related matters, supports the TEC in providing their inputs to the work of other constituted bodies or processes, and will hold 3 technology events at the climate dialogues. Regarding capacity building, the subdivision has supported work on the intergovernmental process, including the organization of the 9th Durban Forum virtual meeting and the preparation of the annual synthesis report of capacity building activities. The report on capacity building activities of constituted bodies and the annual technical progress report of the PCCB. The subdivision supported the work of constituted bodies through the organization of the PCCB's annual virtual meeting, including the proposed work plan for 2021 to 2024, through the provision of technical support to the PCCB to develop a toolkit to assess capacity building needs and gaps at the national level, through the design and launching of the PCCB network, which now has more than 200 members, through coherence and coordination of capacity building activities with other constituted bodies and other bodies and processes, and through support to the PCCB's engagement at the regional level, including by organizing capacity building knowledge to Action Day for Africa. With regards to communications and outreach, the subdivision regularly updated the capacity building portal and associated web pages and social media channels, as well as organized 2 events on capacity building during the climate dialogues and 6 webinars. On climate finance with regards to the intergovernmental process, we have supported informal consultations by the presidencies with 10 groups of parties, prepared briefing notes on the reviews of the financial mechanism and the adaptation fund, guidance to the operating entities, a new quantified goal on finance and long-term finance, organized the virtual long-term finance in-session workshop, and supported the joint presidency's events on climate finance, and established the submissions portal for the biennial communications on Article 9.5 of the Paris Agreement. Through our support to constituted bodies and outreach, we have supported the virtual 22nd meeting and 2 informal meetings of the Standing Committee on Finance and are currently preparing for its 23rd meeting. Additionally, we have prepared 30 background papers and presentations and meeting reports and the SCF report to the COP. We have organized 7 regional/global webinars on the Biennial Assessment 2020, Needs Determination Reports, Article 2.1c and Financing Nature-Based Solutions, Advanced Work on Biennial Assessment 2020 and Needs Determination Reports, and processed the reports of the GEF and the Adaptation Fund to the COP and CMP, and compiled and synthesized 101 submissions/inputs by parties, civil society, MDBs, and other international organizations. Finally, our communications and outreach activities on climate finance have included organizing needs-based finance projects, virtual inception workshops in LDC Asia and West Africa, which included 11 regions and sub-regions involving more than 112 countries, and 7 regional technical assessments on climate finance that are in the process of being finalized. Updates to the climate finance web portal to reflect the work of the SFC and needs-based finance, and organizing 2 climate finance events at the June Momentum and 4 events at the Climate Dialogues. We will now move on to the Administrative Services, Human Resources, and Information and Communication Technology Division, ASHRICT for a short version. In Administrative Services, our Budget and Finance Unit is providing continuous management, monitoring, and administration of the Secretariat's finances. They are currently coordinating the process for formulating the program budget proposal for the biennium 2022 to 2023. Since the number of physical meetings and staff missions have sharply declined due to global travel restrictions, the Secretariat has been providing financial support through travel claims to enable funded participants to connect to virtual meetings via the internet. At our headquarters, we have responded to the local situation regarding the COVID-19 pandemic by implementing protective measures in the office environment and adjusting staff presence on site. In the area of human resources, our work on reviewing all job descriptions in the Secretariat is nearing completion. From a target of 488 job descriptions, we have already classified 421, with the remaining on track to be completed by the end of the year. In 2020, we have had a significant increase in the number of online learning courses being undertaken by staff, and we are continuing to develop new relevant courses to address this growing need. Likewise, the use of staff counseling services has doubled as we encourage staff to be proactive in ensuring their well-being. With regard to ICT, the Secretariat has minimized the impact of COVID-19 by enhancing enterprise mobility and virtual meeting services, infrastructure, and tools. This has enabled the Secretariat to provide a smooth transition to virtual meetings and flexible working arrangements for delegates and staff. The introduction of virtual meeting tools has helped us to host a number of online meetings, including the EB, GISC, SCF, TEM-M, and the June Momentum, paving the way for the climate dialogues and COP26. So far, close to 300 meetings have been organized virtually since the onset of COVID-19, and all internal secretariat meetings have been conducted as either fully virtual or hybrid meetings. The Legal Affairs Division. The work of the Legal Affairs Division has continued at a similarly high volume to previous years, despite any potential impact of COVID-19. In fact, in some cases, the situation has resulted in an increase of work in the context of providing legal advice on the implications of the pandemic on the intergovernmental process. The division's other support to the intergovernmental process has also continued, including through advising the presidencies and presiding officers on a range of legal and procedural matters. With respect to LA's support to the constituted bodies, the division has continued its extensive work in this context as the various meetings have shifted to a virtual setting. In particular, Legal Affairs has successfully serviced 3 meetings of the Paris Agreement Facilitation of Implementation and Promotion of Compliance, and 3 meetings of the Kyoto Protocol Compliance Committee. All of these have been held online, which presented various challenges, but were ultimately able to proceed effectively to allow these bodies to continue their important work. The division has also undertaken inter-meeting work on compliance under the Kyoto Protocol on all 3 cases, as well as providing legal support to the CDM Executive Board for its 3 meetings. This has included advising the board on a range of legal and procedural issues that have arisen, including the question of the operation of the CDM post-2020. This is in addition to the other procedural and legal advice that LA has provided to all other constituted bodies and mechanisms this year. The division has also continued to experience a high volume of requests for general, legal, and institutional support. Not only has this included the provision of all requested institutional, legal, and policy advice, but it has also involved the review and negotiation of over 140 legal agreements. This has allowed Legal Affairs to ensure that all aspects of the Secretariat's activities throughout all divisions are being undertaken with the Secretariat's legal interest in mind and with any legal risks appropriately addressed. The Conference Affairs Division. The Conference Affairs Division strives to provide optimal conference services for UNFCCC sessions of the governing and subsidiary bodies, as well as for a wide range of workshops and other events. Conference Affairs' role includes planning and coordinating operational aspects of conferences, including managing the participation fund, official documents, meetings, and the registration and accreditation of participants. To deliver these services, Conference Affairs builds on long-standing collaboration across the Secretariat. Even before the pandemic appeared, Conference Affairs was already adapting to the challenging nature of the UNFCCC process. COVID-19 highlighted the need for conference services to evolve further and faster. The trend now shifting towards virtual or hybrid meetings is expected to remain as an option once physical meetings can resume without restrictions. In this context, the strengthening of service integration across divisions is critical to providing a coherent and streamlined approach for meeting services, regardless of their format. Status of implementation of the new Secretariat structure. On the new Secretariat structure, I am very pleased to share that our implementation of the new Secretariat structure is coming to a successful conclusion. As envisioned, we have completed the mapping of staff to the new structure, and all Secretariat staff are now working according to the new structure. The mapping was the result of a very thorough, fair, and consultative process based on the recommendations of a diverse panel of staff from across the Secretariat. We have succeeded in finding solutions for each of the few staff members who could not be mapped to allow them to find new opportunities in the Secretariat while ensuring equitable treatment for all staff. The results of the mapping have been well received within the organization, and we are in the process of completing remaining transition and handover elements. Our work on reviewing all job descriptions is nearing completion, with 421 job descriptions already reviewed and classified. With the completion of the mapping process, we have turned our attention to recruiting for new and vacant posts in the Secretariat and to our ongoing non-structural initiatives to enhance collaboration across the new structure and to strengthen leadership, performance management, and staff development. The first batches of priority posts for recruitment have already been advertised, and we have engaged a consultant to support us in the recruitment of posts for the P5 level and above. We have put in place an internal process for prioritizing further posts for recruitment involving each of the directors. We continue to move forward with our leadership development program for all supervisors and a range of cultural change and staff development initiatives, which will continue beyond the end of the restructuring and be integrated into the ongoing work of the organization. Ultimately, this is a very positive story for the Secretariat, as we have been able to effectively implement a new structure with minimal impact on staff that will help to ensure that we continue to be fit for purpose Secretariat, able to effectively support and adapt to the evolving needs of the climate change process. With regards to the preparation of the 2022 to 2023 biennium program budget, and in preparation of the budget negotiations in 2021, the Secretariat has started the process to formulate the program budget for the next biennium, 2022 to 2023. We would like to share the underlying core assumptions and principles for this budget process. The core assumption is that the current pandemic will be under control and travel restrictions will be lifted. This means that meetings can be held in person again and virtually where feasible. Concerning the principles, the preparation will follow the principles of the budget process for 2020 to 2021. The budget will be developed on a zero-based budget principle to ensure all activities in the budget are justified. Furthermore, all activities will be planned in line with the strategic objectives. Activities will be categorized using the same 4 categories as in 2020 to 2021. A peer review within the Secretariat will ensure consistency, validity of assumptions, and avoidance of duplications and redundancies. In the lead up to the budget negotiations, workshops and briefings will be conducted with parties next year. The Secretariat plans to present the program budget for 2022 to 2023 in the same format as the current budget. This allows for easy comparison and ensures consistency. As is the case in every biennium, a zero nominal growth scenario will be presented. Similar to the current biennium, all planned activities in the next biennium will be organized according to the mandates they support in 4 categories. Category 1, essential activities. Category 2, recurring or long-term activities. Category 3, temporary or short-term activities. And Category 4, complementary activities. For budget and funding purposes, Categories 1 and 2 are considered as core, and Categories 3 and 4 are considered as supplementary. The total requirements of activities in all 4 categories forms the total integrated budget. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the presentation. We encourage parties to submit by Tuesday, 24 November, any questions they have, specifying the relevant section and slide number regarding the information in this presentation to UNFCCC-budget@unfccc.int. During the live sessions that will take place on Thursday, 26 November from 16 to 1800 hours and repeated on 27 November from 8 to 10 in the morning, Central European Time, we would share our responses to questions received. Thank you, and we look forward to meeting you during the live Q&A sessions.